The beautiful old world city of Vienna, capital of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, with its magnificent culture that had seen the likes of Beethoven and Mozart, now had a new resident, a pale, lanky, sad-looking 18-year-old named Adolf Hitler. Hitler's friend from his hometown of Linz, August Kubizek, also came to Vienna and they roomed together. Kubizek described Hitler as a night owl who slept till noon, would go out for walks, taking in all the sights, then stay up late discussing his ideas on everything from social reform to city planning. Hitler was also prone to sudden bursts of inspiration and had many interesting ideas but never finished anything he started. Whether composing his own opera or redesigning the city of Vienna, he would start with much enthusiasm and work hard, only to eventually lose interest. Hitler soon parted from his only friend after failing in the art exam the second time, and he left Kubizek without even informing him. He lived by himself, moving from place to place as his savings gradually dwindled and his lifestyle spiraled downward. He eventually pawned all his possessions and actually wound up sleeping on park benches and begging for money. He quickly became a dirty, smelly, unshaven young man, wearing tattered clothes and did not even own an overcoat. In December of 1909, freezing and half-starved, he moved into a homeless shelter. Hitler sometimes earned a little money as a day laborer, shoveling snow and carrying bags at the train station. He then discovered he could earn a meager living selling pictures of famous Vienna landmarks, which he copied from postcards. Hitler took to selling his own paintings to mostly Jewish shops owners and was also assisted by Joseph Neumann, a Jew he befriended. The utter misery of his poverty also deeply influenced Hitler. He adopted a harsh survivalist mentality, which left little room for consideration of kindness and compassion, an attitude that would stay with him until the end. Later on, Hitler suffered bouts of depression. Other times he experienced extreme high only to be followed by a drop back into the depths. One consistent personality trait was hysteria, evident whenever someone displeased him. Hitler's personality has been described as basically hysterical in nature. Now at age 21, he was becoming keenly interested in politics, watching events unfold around him in Vienna. After witnessing a large protest march by workers, he immersed himself in an intensive study of the politics of the Workers' Party, the Social Democrats. He gained appreciation of their ability to organize large rallies and use propaganda and fear as a political weapon. From the sidelines, he also watched the two other main parties, the Pan-German Nationalists and the Christian Social Party, which heightened his interest in German nationalism and anti-Semitism. Among the middle class in Vienna, anti-Semitism was considered rather fashionable. The mayor Karl Lueger, a noted anti-Semite, was a member of the Christian Social Party, which included anti-Semitism in its political platform. Hitler admired Lueger, a powerful politician, for his speech-making skills and effective use of propaganda in gaining popular appeal. He also admired Lueger's skills in manipulating established institutions such as the Catholic Church. He studied Lueger carefully and modeling some of his later behavior on what he learned. It was a slow transformation of hate towards Jews at this point. But Hitler's anti-Semitism was not yet apparent in his personal relationships with Jews. He still did business with Jewish shop owners in selling his paintings and maintained the friendship with Joseph Neumann. However, the seeds of hate were planted and would be nurtured by the events soon to come. Hitler left Vienna at age 24 to avoid mandatory military service, but he was tracked down by the Austrian authorities in January 1914. Faced with the possibility of prison for avoiding military service, he wrote a letter to the Austrian consultant, apologizing and told of his recent years of misery. He was pardoned. In Munich, Hitler continued painting once again, making a small living by selling painted pictures of landmarks to the local shops. When asked by an old acquaintance how he would make a permanent living, Hitler said it did not matter since there soon to be a war. On August 1st, 1914, a huge enthusiastic crowd, including Hitler, gathered in a big public plaza in Munich, the occasion to celebrate the German proclamation of war. 2 days later, Hitler volunteered for the German army, enlisting in a Bavarian regiment. In the muddy, lice-infested, smelly trenches of World War I, Adolf Hitler found a new home, fighting for the German fatherland. After years of poverty, alone and uncertainty, he now had a sense of belonging and purpose. All over Europe and England, young men including Adolf Hitler eagerly volunteered, like most young soldiers before them. They thought it would be a short war, but hopefully long enough for them to see some actions and participate in the great adventure. It would turn out to be a long war in which soldiers died by the millions. An entire generation of young men would be wiped out. The war would also bring the downfall of the old European culture of kings and noblemen and their courts of honor. Hitler had volunteered at the age of 25 by enlisting in a Bavarian regiment. After its first engagement against the British and Belgians, 2,500 of 3,000 men in the Hitler's regiment were killed, wounded, or missing. Hitler escaped without a scratch. On October 7, 1916, Hitler's luck ran out when he was wounded in the leg by a shell fragment during the battle. He was hospitalized in Germany. It was his first time away from the front after 2 years of war. Following his recovery, he went sightseeing in Berlin, then was assigned to duty in Munich. He was appalled at the apathy and anti-war sentiment among German civilians. He blamed the Jews for much of this and saw them as conspiring to spread unrest and undermine the German war front. To get away from the apathetic civilians, Hitler asked to go back to the front and was sent back in March of 1917. In August 1918, he received the Iron Cross First Class, a rarity for foot soldiers. Interestingly, the lieutenant who recommended him for the medal was a Jew, a fact Hitler would later obscure. Despite his good record and a total of 5 medals, he remained a corporal. As the tide of war turned against the Germans and morale collapsed along the front, Hitler became depressed. He would sometimes spend hours sitting in the corner of the tent in deep contemplation, then would suddenly burst onto his feet shouting about the invisible foes of the German people, namely Jews and Marxists. In October 1918, he was temporarily blinded by a British chlorine gas attack. He was sent home to a starving, war-weary country full of unrest. He laid in a hospital bed consumed with a dread amid a swirl of rumors of impending disaster. On November 10, 1918, an elderly pastor came into the hospital and announced the news. The Kaiser and the House of Hohenzollern had fallen. Their beloved fatherland was now a republic. The war was over. Hitler described his reaction in the book Mein Kampf. There followed terrible days and even worse nights. I knew that all was lost in these nights. Hatred grew in me, hatred for those responsible for this deed. Not the military in his mind, but the politicians back at home in Germany, and primarily the Jews.